Greetings, fellow travelers. Welcome on in. This is the RPG Cave, level 173. I am one of your hosts, the level 199 human Dark Lord, Ryan Turford, and I am joined, as always, by the level 199 Elf Battle Alchemist, Dr. Garret Bland. How's it going, Garret?
I'm doing good. Ryan, is DAP like an old thing now? Like, it was a thing like 2 or 3 years ago. I feel like it just stopped.
Yeah.
It's just like no one's doing it anymore. Fortnite's not even doing it. So I feel like me doing the DAP is a bit old school now.
Is there something else that the kids do now, Garret, that we just don't know about?
I'm sure that's the case. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have to talk to the little kids, the Gen Alphas now, because they're running the show now, marking the culture. Have you noticed that now the generations are chopped up shorter and shorter now?
Yeah.
Like Gen Z was just only 10 years or something?
Yeah, something like that.
It was 1996 to 2000.
So what you're saying is we're micromanaging.
We're micromanaging
generations, Garret, too much.
Yeah. And I think the Gen Alphas just ended. Like they dubbed it. Oh, okay. This is the Gen Alphas, like from 2010 to now.
Yeah.
So it's like they're in the earlies are in their tweens or whatever. But I'm still classified as a millennial, Ryan. Believe it or not.
That's true.
Yeah. I was on the tail end, the bitter tail end of that, because I think they mark it as the social media and internet and how you grow up with social media. And Facebook just released publicly, openly, like when I was in high school, and it wasn't really that popular until like my senior year, where it got really popular. So anyways, I was
gonna say, like, millennials are still the people that remember what the world was, the last group of people that remember what the world was like before the internet was a big thing.
Yeah, and I was like right before the major push. Like I was like on the cusp, on the borderline, right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you were probably a small child when before the small push the push started to happen. Whereas I'm much older than you. Like, I definitely remember like the first 15 years of my life where the internet was not really much of a thing. So
I remember MySpace. That was the thing that's popular too. It was in middle school for me.
Yeah. Sean Capri pointing out that he got a Facebook account when you needed a university email address to have
Yes,
Facebook.
I remember that was a thing. But yeah, I had a Facebook in high school, and really, you saw the naivety, the stupidity, the dumbness right then and there. In the early years of Facebook, I always go back to my Facebook posts now from 2007 or 8 or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, I never want to see that again.
I was going to say, like, that's why I'm glad that my Facebook from back then doesn't exist anymore, because, like, these are problems I don't have to deal with anymore.
You remember when people used to say Garret, they say your name, like Garret Bland, and then you put is something. Like, is awesome, is cool, is dope, or is boss. And yeah. You just do that all the time. I thought it was so cool back in high school, but you look at those posts and it's just like, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
See, I'm glad that the one thing I'm glad that doesn't exist anymore right now is my GeoCities website, Garret. Like, I'm glad that none of the GeoCities websites exist anymore, because like,
what's GeoCities? Sorry, I'm showing my.
So back in the day.
Yeah.
If you wanted to build a website, it was very complicated. You'd have to basically build it. You'd have to code the website with HTML code.
Okay.
And most people didn't know how to do that. But GeoCities was a website that allowed you, that was like a free website where you could kind of build your own website as part of GeoCities. And everyone kind of had their own page. And you could kind of customize it how you wanted to. So mine was so silly. Of course, Sean referring to Angel Fire is the other one that he's thinking of too. That kind of was the same thing.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But GeoCities was the one that has my website, and it was like so stupid. It had like a MIDI version of like Nine Inch Nails playing with like these like little snowflakes on it. I would be telling people to come by to sign my guest book, to be like to sign, saying that they were here, they visited my website.
That's crazy.
And then eventually we had the big breakthrough through Garret, where where with the invention of frames, which allowed you to have kind of like multiple tiled sections of your website, so it didn't have to be just one like really long page. And you could do you could then kind of use links to kind of branch off your website into multiple different links. But man, the internet was a wild time.
That was the Wild West for sure.
But yeah, I would probably cringe every time I looked at that website if that website still existed. Kind of like Garret, you know about the Space Jam website, right?
No, I don't. I probably have heard of it. I just don't know.
Okay, because I need to show you, Garret, the Space Jam website. Because
show me the Space Jam website.
This is the current website for Space Jam. If you go to spacejam.com, this is what you get. It looks like this.
Oh my goodness!
Because it's a perfectly preserved website from the 1990s.
That's wonderful.
Still exists, and you've got all these different links on the Space Jam page. I love to how they use like red font here that you can barely even read on the stars here.
1996, jeez, yeah.
And you can go to the site map, and then this gives you like all the different descriptions of all the little places, pulled together by frames. Garret.
This is pulled together by frames. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you can go to Stellar Souvenirs. You get yourself a screensaver.
This is amazing.
You can download your screensaver for either Mac or Windows 95, Garret. You install it using your control panel folder and double click to indicate your startup preference. Then sit back and watch the characters of Space Jam invade your computer screen.
This looks like a hack. This looks like one of those fake websites that wants to get your virus into your computer.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. This is ridiculous. It's a whole site of this where you can just go and explore.
And this is still operated by Warner Brothers.
Well, they don't touch it. It just sits there. It's perfectly preserved on the internet for all to enjoy at this point.
I wonder if they have to amp up the security on that thing. I don't know.
They probably should, because it's probably a backdoor into their system.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyways, yeah, I'm doing good. How about you, Ryan?
Well, I'm glad that all that stemmed from asking if you're doing well.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, the weather itself stopped snowing, thankfully.
That's good.
It's a nice day outside today.
It's pretty nice out here too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, things are good. Things are good. But anyways, we should probably talk about role-playing games, since this is the RPG cave. We should probably get into it. Although Sean was saying, "Don't let me down, Garret. Please make sure to have 9 things from the doc."
Oh, 9 things. Okay, I at least have 3. We can turn it into 20. I don't know, wherever the show takes us.
The whole show could just be Garrett's things.
Should be a Patreon podcast, Garrett's things.
Yeah, Garrett's the Garrett's Things for Patrons podcast would be
there. You go.
That. Yeah.
There you go. We're cooking.
Yeah. So let's clear the dungeons and we can get to the raid boss as quickly as possible. So folks at home, if you like what we do and you want to support the show, there's a number of amazing ways you can help us out. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right now over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming or twitch.tv/carpoolgaming live, you can hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Hit that follow button if you're on Twitch. You can even hit that subscribe button if you want to toss some bucks our way, grab some cool emotes over on Twitch, and then like the video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget that like button as well. Maybe leave us a nice Apple Podcast or Spotify review, or leave a comment over on Spotify. All those things help the show get discovered. Also, if you want one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming Cinematic Universe on a ton of over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming, just like Todd Oxtra did, who joined at the ad-free all-in-one tier, as well as Andrew Nayland, who also joined at the ad-free all-in-one tier. So shout out to both Todd Oxtra and Andrew Nayland for hopping over there to Patreon. Patreon.com/carpoolgaming.
Just to let you know, Andrew's my friend. Hi, Andrew. Thank you for joining in. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Shout out to Andrew. But, speaking of the Patreon, we got lots of great new content over there. Amanda's Pants episode will be out tomorrow on the Patreon. Mm-hmm. So you can definitely go and check out what Amanda had to say to your questions. And then Fulia is up next this week. The koala will be in, so make sure to ask her all the Australia-based questions that you have. including Outback Steakhouse questions, because those are always my favorite.
You have to ask, is she okay with all the huntsman spiders out there? Is she battling it out like Fallout New Vegas?
She keeps claiming that she never sees, big bugs like that. So, I don't know.
She needs to go in the wilderness, out in the outback.
She was complaining last week that it was like super cold there. It was like 19 degrees Celsius. So it's like, 75.
Yeah, that's terribly cold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for Australians, I guess that's cold because it's their summer right now, right? So.
Oh, is it? Yeah, true.
Because remember, it's reversed.
You're correct. Yeah. They do everything opposite. Even the toilets swirl differently.
Exactly. That's what happens when you live upside down, essentially.
Exactly.
So make sure to go ask questions for Fulia. Her question post will be up on Monday, and you don't even have to be a paid Patreon member to go do that. You just have to have a Patreon account, which is free. You just go and sign in, ask Fulia a question, and she will answer it on the Pants Patreon podcast for patrons podcast. Also, we have early access to the mini indie van now available on Patreon as well. Speaking of Fulia, that is, her new indie show.
Nice.
Of course, the show is currently in early access, so we would love y'all's feedback on it. So please make sure to let Fulia know what you think about the show, because we'd love to hear from you. The first episode with Ron is out right now, so you can go listen to that. And, of course, don't forget, we have a 7-day free trial on the Patreon. If you just want to check that show out, as well as check out some of other stuff, you can do that. Definitely do that. We have a free trial for 7 days of the exclusive tier, our most popular tier. So make sure to check a look over there on the old Patreon. But now, Garrett. Oh, also, we have our website, carpoolgaming.com. We can get all kinds of cool merch, like our RPG Cave t-shirts, as well as other Carpool Gaming merch. But now, Garrett, tell me about your 3 things, or 9 things, or however many things you got for me today.
All right, thing number 1. We don't have to get into this too much, Ryan. I just want to mention, and it's just, Microsoft has been releasing a lot of public press. So it's not just this, it's just many other different things, but we'll focus on what's related to gaming. Microsoft had a press release and a Nature article. My goodness, my dog was hacking up along. Hope she's okay. Okay, yeah, she's fine. She's fine. But Microsoft has released this new AI model that's related to gaming. So for folks who don't know, it's called Muse. And they kind of just publicly released it as like, hey, this is a proof of concept where we have trained a deep generative AI model to mimic game engine like movement based on controller input. That's basically the concept. It's trained on, this is an interesting one. So this is Ninja Theory's Bleeding Edge.
Yep, that multiplayer game.
Yeah, when I heard Bleeding Edge, I'm like, I've never heard of this before. Then I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh, I remember that cover art.
I was going to say, you don't remember Bleeding Edge? That was like the hit game like 6 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Ninja
so, of course, a perfect test case for training data for this model. But basically, I know folks that, they kind of deter away. It's like, ew, AI model, let's just not use it. Let's not deal with it. I think this is just more of it's just a proof of concept type of deal. It's like, it's not going to replace content. It's not going to replace anything. It's mainly just about how can we utilize a new tool for development. So that's how they kind of showed it off in a sense. And Phil Spencer and then the other folks over there, they did like this short 7-minute video just explaining it. And another interesting thing that Phil mentioned about this model is that, we can possibly use this for preservation of old games. Basically, just allowing an easier import or transfer of older games into newer engines. That's basically it. So just, I just want to keep it up to date on the space is that, this is happening. I know people are not liking it, but guys, we're in the AI model.
I was just going to say, those are the same people that like hear the words AI and assume it's instantly evil.
Yes.
Because again, there are good uses for AI, and there are obviously bad uses. That
There are
put
terrible
people out of
uses for
jobs.
AI, like stealing people's art and copying other content. I totally get that. Actually, of course, you need copyright laws. You need some sort of regulation for the use of these models.
Yeah,
At the same time, my use case, I do use AI models a lot, especially with just general code help in my day-to-day job. And I think it's just because code is so deterministic and open-ended and very shareable community. So it's much easier for me to, let's say, define and do prompts with an AI model to see what kind of strategies or code that it can spit out based on what's been trained on, which is the internet. So it's a good use case. Of course, there's always bad use cases for AI models as well. But this seems like just a proof of concept type of deal. So
no, exactly. I mean, to be fair, I don't really use AI at my job, but like I use it sometimes when I'm making the thumbnails for Carpool because Photoshop has its own generative AI model, which I don't use it to generate things, but what I'll do is I'll use it to be like, oh, there's some words on this this image that I want to use for the thumbnail. I'll use the Adobe generative AI to remove the words and kind of fill in the space as it kind of should look. So I'll use it for little things like that. Like I do think that there's ways that AI can improve our lives without having to like put people out of jobs.
Yeah. So of course, there's always a middle ground to it. So, and think of this as just a new tool. Just like how, when computers came into our lives and internet came into our lives and then like Microsoft Office and applications came to our lives, it totally changed the way we worked, totally changed the way we go through development.
And people were just as scared back then of the internet as they are with some of this AI stuff. So
yeah. So anyways, it's just, that's the future is trying to figure this stuff out. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, super cool thing. I just got noticed last week by my coworker. A micro center is opening in the Bay Area.
now, Garrett, I'm putting my hand up for the audience and also for myself. What is a micro center? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my goodness, you don't know what a micro center is? Okay, wow.
Well, we have like there was like a micro center down the street from my place that was the kind of like a Radio Shack where you'd go there and buy batteries.
Yeah, so
probably not the same thing you're describing, Garrett.
it could be the same thing. I don't know. It's a store. It's just like a store wide company like Best Buy or Target or whatever, but it's specifically for PCs. It's like all about PCs, tech, GPUs, computer parts. Disneyland for nerds. No joke. What Yarden just shouted out.
Yeah.
And there's there's very limited storefronts across the country. The closest one to me is in I think it was Los Angeles area, so it's 6 hours away. And so having a micro center in the Bay Area is very nice. They give you good deals, good bundles. Overall it's just it's just PC parts and monitors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love it. I mean, that's probably one of the dorkiest things you've ever had on Garrett's Three Things, and I love it. But
I absolutely cannot wait.
Yeah, we don't have a store like that here. We do have obviously Canadian branded stores like Canada's Computers, which is a physical store location.
Wow.
That you go to, and it's kind of very similar to what you just described, Garrett, where you would just go in and buy computer parts and stuff like that. But
yeah, the only related storefront is Best Buy. That's like the closest thing. And, Best Buy is more general. It's like, you got your TVs, you got your dishwashers.
They've got very basic computer
They got
parts
washer and dryer stuff too. And very basic PC stuff. But Micro Center is all about the PC and the monitors. So cannot wait.
You're going to end up going there like every weekend and spending all kinds of money, aren't you?
Yeah. And then it's like right next to the mall, down in San Jose. So we just make a full day out of it. Just go shopping in the mall. Then me just frolicking in the Micro Center.
Yeah. Yeah, your wife goes and
man.
looks at, literally anything else while you go to the Micro Center and look at computer parts. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's a great time. Third thing, Ryan, I've been watching a lot of shows. That's why a lot of my gaming time's been pretty minimal the past, I don't know, a few weeks or so.
Okay.
It's just there's so many shows to watch. I'm catching up on Severance. Great show from Apple TV. I binge watched a few Netflix limited series. One's called Cassandra. I don't know if you ever heard of this one. It's a German show, and it's about this family going and buying this old house from like the 50s or something, and basically there's this kind of not AI model, but yeah, this like personified assistant that's also in charge of the house, can close the doors, can cut vegetables for you. It has a robot like remote thing that goes around the house. It's super creepy. Good show though. And then catching up on what was it? White Lotus. That just started as well, the new season. I don't know if you ever heard of that one.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, to be fair, I don't watch a lot of TV shows, so I'm mostly just nodding my head along. Garrett.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and as some people put in the chat, Severance is so good, Ryan.
Yeah,
it's so good.
You're not the first person that's told me this, Garrett. But I also will
man.
never sign up for Apple TV ever. So.
Oh yeah, if you ever sign up for Apple TV, just do a free trial for a month and just binge watch Severance. That's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, but then I'd have to wait for the whole series to be over and then do it that way.
Yeah. You could do it.
You'd have to finish it in a month.
Well, here's the thing. We got Apple TV another month free trial. It reoccurs. Like, you can finagle it. I don't know. You don't necessarily need to pay a lot to watch these shows. Because it was like 2 years difference. Or like the first season came out 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while since the second season popped up. So
okay.
Anyways. Okay.
Is it anywhere as good as James Cameron's Dark Angel, now available on DVD, Garrett?
It's probably like 346% better.
I don't know. James Cameron's Dark Angel has Jessica Alba in it. I mean, it's something. I don't know.
Yeah. From when? Like the mid 2000s?
Yeah.
When she's at her peak. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great show. To be fair, like I said, I just don't watch too many shows, but I'm glad that you enjoyed them, Garrett.
No, it's great. Great stuff. Yeah. Anyways, I'm good. Those are my 3 things.
I mean, to be fair, I was too busy this week playing Skyward Sword and trying to do this with my hand, like trying to waggle and
as one does.
Use the sword, trying to get the Skyward Sword just right, but like the sensor just doesn't pick it up properly.
And then you have the little dongle at the bottom of the Wii remote.
Oh, no, I'm playing on Switch.
Oh, you're playing on Switch. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're not the Wii Plus motion.
No, because there is the option to use buttons only, but that is its own set of issues.
That's what I've heard too. So yeah. That sounds like fun.
I mean, to be fair, the rest of the game is
like
actually
fun.
pretty good, but it just makes combat feel not great. But.
Every time I hear about Skyward Sword, it's like Zelda fans are like, "Yeah, it's good." And I'm like, wow, that's the worst comment you've ever had on a Zelda game.
Yeah. I don't know. Part of me is just like, man, I wish I could just press the button and it does the thing. But also, again, like I liked where their headspace was at with them trying something like that. Because like people were trying to use like the Wiimote as like a sword or a lightsaber or something for the longest time. And they allowed people to kind of live out that fantasy. I only wish that, it was a little more precise, or you didn't feel like you had to like kind of move it back and forth.
Hack your freaking sword around like it's going crazy.
Yeah, because some of the enemies, it's like you have to attack them from a specific angle, and it doesn't always register that specific angle, so it's kind of annoying. But that's Skyward Sword. It's not a role.
Sounds pretty annoying to me. So
yeah,
cool.
So those are your 3 things. Look at that.
Those are my 3 things. Sorry, did I disappoint Sean? Sorry,
it wasn't 9 things. That's all good. But
cool.
Anyways, Garrett. I've been looking over while you've been doing your 3 things, and I've been looking over there in the corner, and there's a little person over there with a little exclamation mark over their head, indicating there's a side quest. So let's march on over.
Let's go.
Let's go on a little side quest, Garrett, before we get to our main topic. Pokemon Presents is happening this week.
It's coming.
Had it announced a week ahead of time. I love that, everyone was waiting for the Nintendo Direct to either announce or shadow drop on the Thursday, Garrett. But instead we got the announcement of the Pokemon Presents happening a week later on the 27th at 6 a.m. your time, Garrett. So
it's fantastic.
You're probably not going to wake up bright and early to watch the Pokemon Presents.
No, that's a Wednesday, right?
It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday. Yeah, I'll think about it. I always have a meeting at 7:30 on Thursday, so maybe I'll wake up a little earlier. I don't know. We'll see.
Anyways, I totally lost my internet, so I have no idea what you just said.
Oh, I just said I have a meeting at 7:30 typically on Thursday, so. Yeah, maybe wake up a little earlier for Pokemon Presents. We'll see.
Yeah. So, Garrett, since I know you really like the Pokemans, I wanted to at least talk about this a little bit because, first of all, the thing that we know we're probably going to see here is Pokemon Legends ZA. It's supposed to technically come out this year. It's a Switch 1 game. So first of all, man, I want to ask you a couple things about it. First of all, when do you think this game is actually coming out? I want you to look into your crystal ball a little bit and tell us when you think Pokemon Legends comes out. Do you think it comes out before Switch 2 or after?
I think it comes out after Switch 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this Pokemon ZA is their next major game. They will release it. I'm thinking like August, September.
Okay.
Timeframe. Yeah. I think, I would say September. They tend to, mainline Pokemon games tend to come out in the fall, September, October-ish area. Pokemon Legends came out, it was an odd one. It came out, early, I would say 2022, right? I believe that's the year.
Yeah, it was like January 2022.
Yeah, and that was their test case. That was their test bed of like, does this new formula work out? Are we going through, having the right steps? And I feel like it was a success. I really enjoyed Pokemon Legends. So, of course, they're kind of all in with Pokemon ZA. I would be very hesitant on saying that it's going to be very good looking or it's going to be running really well. It's going to probably be running I would say marginally better than Violet. Was it Pokemon Violet?
Scarlet and Violet?
Yeah, Scarlet.
I was just about to ask about that. I was like, does it actually potentially run worse than those games?
I mean, they should not run worse than that. That was bad.
God, I hope so.
Yeah. I would say on par with Pokemon Legends, for sure.
Yeah, because that like even though the frame rate wasn't consistent, it at least was not terrible either.
You can play it.
It was at least playable. Yeah. Whereas because you're right, like Scarlet and Violet, like, you barely play that game.
Mm-hmm. I'm very curious the kind of the game itself, Pokemon ZA, because we know it's in Lumio City. We know it's back in older times, kind of the beginning of developing the city. So I'm very curious of what's the difference between this particular Legends game compared to the first one, because the first one had a lot of Monster Hunter-like influence where you go out and do expeditions and you hunt for certain Pokemon or you hunt for certain items and you kind of go around. I think you can have the same mechanics, but I think they're gonna, on top of it, like, let's do some base building of some kind in Lumia City. That would be pretty cool.
Because you'll probably have to you're probably involved with like building the city up. Like that's probably an aspect of this game.
Which be I would be down for it. Like, let's say you need certain Pokemon or certain materials to build like certain homes or certain buildings or walkways or whatever. It's like, all right, go catch this certain Pokemon that needs this certain item. I think that would be pretty cool, actually. You
got to catch a certain number of Machamps so that they can like put a building together. Like that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. But yeah, I suspect Pokemon ZA, it'll be still just Switch 1 game coming out later this year, September, October-ish. We'll get a release date for it.
Well, yeah, I think for sure we're getting a release date regardless of when it's coming out, because like whether it's later in this year or not. Like, I think this is the kind of the big, like, hey, this is everything you need to know about this game, and this is when you can play it kind of thing. Because I actually think, Garrett, there's also a possibility that this actually comes out before Switch 2. Like, maybe this actually comes out like in May or June or something like that, like sometime earlier this year. But at the same time, I'm kind of guarded against that because, we have the Pokemon Day celebrations in store where you can go in and play some Pokemon games, and they don't have like a. What was interesting, and I kind of had to laugh a little bit at this, was that they were talking about the idea that you can go in store, Garrett, and play not demos or like a demo kiosk of this game, Garrett, like they do sometimes when there's a new release announced, but that you can go in and play Scarlet and Violet. You can go in and try Scarlet and Violet for the first time in store on your Pokemon Day this year. Even though that game's now like a year and a half old. And it's quite a bit old now. I'm kind of surprised that they have that's the big thing that they're toting, that you can go play in store on Pokemon.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Oh, so other than that, do you want to talk about other stuff that could happen?
Yes.
In the Pokemon
so first
Presents?
Of all, Pokemon Presents, typically for those that have never watched a Pokemon Presents before, is generally not just about the games. It's also about if they have like a new things coming to Pokemon Go, Pokemon trading card game. I'm sure we'll get a bunch of new announcements for both the physical cards as well as the mobile app. Probably the anime will have a bunch of announcements as well. Like all everything Pokemon related will be a thing. There will probably be merchandise announced as well. But I think there's also the potential for more game-related stuff to come out. And, Garrett, I have to ask you, because I think this, of all the years that this could happen, I think this could be the year. I think this could finally be the year that we see Pokemon appear on Switch Online.
Oh, yeah. That's always the wish. That's always the hope of seeing Pokemon online. Of some kind,
whether it's just Red and Blue or any of the Game Boy Advance versions. I don't know. I feel like they've been adding a bunch of games to the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance sections that I wouldn't expect them to add, and the Pokemon games kind of fall into that same camp. So I'm curious if they'll ever show up there.
Question for you, Ryan. I actually don't know the answer to this question. Is the Nintendo Switch Online membership, there's like the membership plus expansion pack.
Yeah.
The base membership is only a certain systems, right? Is it just NES and SNES or
NES, SNES, and Game Boy?
And Game Boy, and then expansion pack adds GBA, N64, Sega Genesis.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And it's only like that, right? It's not like particular games within.
Yeah, it's straight up across the board like that.
Okay.
Because you're right. They couldn't really like if they wanted to add Red and Blue on the Game Boy side, they couldn't lock that, or there is no precedent for them to lock that behind a separate membership on top of that.
So I can imagine this. They're gonna of course slowly drip feed this stuff because they love to do this.
Of course,
they'll probably if they're doing it on Nintendo Switch Online, Pokemon Red and Blue, that's it.
Yep.
Like day one release, Pokemon Red and Blue, and then you can imagine over the next 2 to 3 years, every few months or so, they're gonna release another game. I think the next game honestly would be Yellow.
Yep.
I feel like they would separate that and then go from there. So
yeah, because I don't know, Garrett. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I would just assume that these games were never going to come to the service, but then when I look at 3DS and realize that they sold all those games on 3DS, like on the Virtual Console, I'm like, well, why couldn't these games come? Because a lot of people are just like, there's no way they would ever put Pokemon on Switch Online in any way, because or even resell those games. They want you to just play what's new for Pokemon, or just go buy an old console and play it that way. But like, I don't know. I feel like that now feels like the time where it's like, now the Switch is we're kind of moving into Switch 2. Like, that's one of those things that like Nintendo could actually use like this as like a reason to increase the price of Switch Online going into Switch 2, because they know people who love Pokemon will just pay it to play these games on Switch and Switch 2.
Yeah. The only other thing I can see happening is a Pokemon Switch Online separate category. This one would be you have to be a little bit more aggressive of like the beginning front of Pokemon games. So I would say you can't just do blue and red. I would do at the bare minimum, I would probably do the GBC, and GBA games, excluding the third version. So I would say if you're doing this Pokemon Nintendo Switch Online service, you'll start out with blue, red, gold, silver, ruby, sapphire, and that's it. At least from the beginning, and then roll out from there. I can also see that being a potential option because Pokemon loves their subscriptions, Ryan.
Yeah.
They like the Pokemon Home. They want to put you in the mobile games and their battle passes. They love subscriptions. They love to steal your money for a consistent amount of time.
I hadn't thought about that possibility, but that actually makes sense. Like if they did kind of like almost like with that separate, almost like the separate app for the over 17 and 64 games. Like what if they did a separate app for that was just Pokemon games?
Yeah.
And nothing else. And then you have to subscribe to it either on its own tier or like maybe that's another way that they expansion pack plus or something like that to include Pokemon.
Yeah, I think, it's an interesting idea. I'm sure they've talked about it. I feel like it's very doubtful to go through this route just because they do have Pokemon Stadium and Stadium 2 on N64.
Well, there's also Pokemon Rescue as well. I think.
The
Game Boy Advance games.
Yeah. Those are the dungeon crawlers. Those are interesting. So I doubt that they'll do a separate subscription for Pokemon games just because we see side games in the Nintendo Switch Online service already. So
yeah, and to be fair, we might see more of that, and maybe that's the only NSO announcements we get at this event is like maybe it is just more Pokemon spin-off games, like maybe Pokemon Pinball or Pokemon trading card games
Pokemon
with the Game
Pinball.
Boy, like the regular Game Boy or something like that.
You got Pokemon Puzzle League as well in there. I really enjoyed that one. So I would like a Nintendo Switch on like add some mainline games in there. It would be a dream to do a la carte.
Yeah. Or even a collection. Imagine if there was a collection of some of these games, Garrett. They could do like multiple collections too. They could do like the Game Boy era collection, the Game Boy Advance era collection, even up to the DS, or they could do something like that because we know that DS games work.
I'm very curious how the DS games would how would they handle that.
I mean, I would imagine they would probably be set up very similar to what we saw with the Castlevania Dominus collection, where like the screen's kind of split and has like a couple of different options to view them. And then you have like your right joystick kind of be like the mouse or the stylus essentially. Like I think that worked really well for those three games. So I could see them using that for this because we also saw the same thing in like Capcom's Mega Man ZX collection also had that with its DS games as well.
I see. Yeah, so we'll see how this Pokemon Presents goes. I imagine 80% of it's going to be stuff that we don't care about at all.
Yeah. So then let me ask you one last thing, because we didn't talk about this at all as a possibility. But beyond Switch Online stuff and beyond ZA, is there a chance that they announce whatever's next for Pokemon after ZA, whether it's a remake or next gen Pokemon?
Yeah, I can imagine Pokemon Black and White. Yeah. I think that would be a quick turnaround. I think that would be a Switch 1 game. They've been, with Pokemon Shining Diamond Pearl, whatever, that one. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. That was kind of like a test case of like, how do we use this separate B team outsourced studio and Unity, kind of a mainline engine to streamline these remakes of older games.
Yeah.
And so I think they're going to have another stab at it with Black and White. I imagine it's going to be very similar to the remakes of the fourth gen, just chibi like, making sure everything just works pretty well. It'll be out on Switch 1. So then comes the question, when does ZA release and when does this release? I imagine that this black and white remake will come. Yeah, so I was thinking before ZA, because I really think they have it ready to go.
Interesting.
I think they have the remake of black and white, because it's not I wouldn't say it's not terribly difficult. The content's there. It's you don't have to create any. You just literally have to convert and port over to the Unity engine. So
Yeah.
I imagine this can come in before ZA.
And we're seeing a lot of black and white love, thanks to the Pokemon online like card app right now, because they're releasing a bunch of black and white cards in there. Like they're definitely hinting at some black and white stuff. So maybe you're right about that. Maybe there is like a black and white remake around the corner. Whether it like maybe it is sooner than ZA, because maybe even ZA pulls the same thing as Arceus. Maybe it doesn't come out until like the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Like, what if that's like a December
That'd be crazy,
game at this point, right?
Yeah. So, anyways, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I think we're in for an interesting Pokemon Presents this year. Obviously, I will specify as well, I don't think we hear about any games that are native to Switch 2 at this. So like they're not going to announce any Switch 2 stuff here. It'll be like strictly anything that's on Switch 1. So I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to watch the Pokemon Presents, because I'm gonna 9 a.m. Is not that early for me.
Yeah, it's not bad at all for you.
Yeah.
6 a.m. Yeah. I don't know.
But,
A little early.
yeah. But Garrett, it's now time for us to read from the sacred texts, because we are going to talk about Avowed, Garrett. Avowed is finally here. Garrett, you've been waiting for this game forever, pretty much ever since we started doing the show.
Yeah, I know, right?
We've kind of been waiting for Avowed to come out, and it's finally here. We've finally played, and we're going to talk about it. Now, for full disclosure, Garrett, I've finished this game.
It's crazy, dude, that you finished this. When did you start? I'm just curious.
So I got my code last Thursday.
Last Thursday. Okay. So
But I didn't really start playing it until the Sunday.
Jeez, dude. You really went through it.
That's fine. I only put 36 hours into the game in
I know.
5 days.
Jeez.
It's fine.
It's a lot of time. Cool. So you finished the game, and I'm still in the very beginning. I'm still in the first area.
Okay. So when you say the first area, you don't mean the tutorial area. You mean actually
no.
the first.
I'm past it. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
I'm 6 hours in. So yeah, I'm nowhere near. Probably have full impressions compared to you. So
yeah. Also, Sean points out that that's a work week as far as the hour count. And I mentioned this in Discord as well. Like, he's correct. It technically is kind of a work week in a week. But also, I will be the first to admit that there was a lot of idling time. Like, where I just left the game open while I was doing, like, other things. Especially because, like, I was playing it on my lunch break. So I would just have my Xbox turned on with it going, but not actually playing it and things like that. So... so I think like my time is probably a little bit inflated from how much time I actually spent playing it.
So I'm just again, my impressions are early impressions
of course.
of how the game is, and then we can go from there. So
first off, before you get into it, Garrett, I'm curious to know, because this game offers so many different options for combat. So I'm curious to know what your like preferred style is, like what your preferred weapons are, because each weapon, there's like 10 different weapon types, and they all perform completely differently. So like I'm curious to know like what your two loadouts are. So
for sure. So the combat in this game is pretty active, pretty innovative. I really enjoy that's probably the bigger highlights of this game is actually the combat itself.
Yeah.
As Ryan mentioned, there's so many different ways to go about it. You can have like big two-handed weapons. You can be pretty balanced with like a sword and shield, or you can be more magic, or you can be more. And there's even guns in this game, which is pretty cool. And there's archers. So there's like a whole gambit of stuff to go through. I have tried out. I've been trying to dabble in a lot of things, just to see, get my feet wet on certain combat skills. I tend to go more with the lighter weapons.
Okay.
I like to be very agile, very fast, and I like to dodge a little bit more than being a heavy brute kind of person. So, but I think everyone's really gravitating towards magic, and I am too as well. Magic is pretty dope in this game.
Yeah.
Especially with the Grimoire, which is the book that you equip, and you can unlock certain spells from there. But also you have a wand, and you're basically like a first-person Harry Potter game.
Yep. And the best part is like the wands themselves like don't require your magical power to use, so you can use them for range attacks. Which interesting, Garrett. I don't know if you knew this, but you can dual wield the wands and not use the grimoire. You're just blasting spells at people like with your wands.
Oh my gosh! Harry Potter needs to they need to learn that. It gets the trick from their book.
Because any of the light weapons, like any of the like the daggers or the short swords or the wands and stuff, you can dual wield them. So like
that's crazy. I can imagine just two wands that you're just like flicking back and forth.
Yeah.
It's just
you can also go the other direction, Garrett, with magic and wield two grimoires and no wands.
You could. Okay.
With two grimoires with completely different spells on them.
So you have two sets of spells, and you're just going and then do like each hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's a lot of really interesting combinations you can do here. Like I know Bowser was talking about on Xbox Drive last night that she was playing the game with a grimoire in one hand and a pistol in the other.
Yeah,
so
that's what I tend to do too, actually.
With a grimoire, which is so cool.
Yeah, so I'm building out my character. I'm tending to go more mage-like abilities, so I've been kind of growing and investing in that area. But it's great that, you can basically respec anytime, and it is very little to no cost.
It does cost you gold, though.
It does cost you gold, yeah.
And that does increase as you go throughout the game, though. So you do have to be aware of that. But you're right, it's not like a huge amount. But if anything, I felt like it really pinched my wallet if I wanted to respec in the early game. Because, money is actually, like, in the early part of the game, I actually think money is a very valuable resource, way more of a valuable resource in this game as opposed to a lot of other RPGs I play. Because you'll find when you get later into the game that you might not find a drop of the weapon type that you like, so you kind of have to go to the store and go buy it, and they can be kind of expensive.
Yeah.
So you do kind of have to save your money for that. So Garrett, now since you answered my question, I'll then kind of give you what I play as, because I started out doing the magic thing, but I actually pivoted a little ways through the game, because what I found I was actually enjoying the most is just pretending I was Lara Croft and having dual pistols. So
oh my goodness.
So I was going around, like I almost felt like I was like a cowboy or something like that, because they're not really like modern pistols. They're not like semi-automatic pistols or anything. They're muskets.
Old school. Yeah.
You're just sitting there, usually like you get one shot off and then you got to reload it, and then get another shot off and then you got to reload it. But if you got two pistols, you can then blast them at the multiple times. Or what you can do, Garrett, is that eventually you'll get skills that allow you to kind of slow down time when you charge your pistol shots, and then if you charge them both together, you can then inflict heavy stun on the enemies if you hit them in their weak spots.
Interesting. Okay.
So I would use that to great advantage on some of the later enemies, where I would just like basically stun lock them by just basically stunning them over again. And when you stun an enemy in this game, what happens then is you can do like almost like a trick shot on them, doing extra damage. So I would just force them into stun mode and then do like a really powerful attack with my pistols and kind of keep them in that loop. And when I wasn't using pistols, my backup, like my other loadout was sword and board. So like a light sword with like a shield, essentially.
Cool.
And I would kind of use that for more like defensive minded fights or like fights where the enemies would like get really in my face. I would then kind of switch to that and kind of, go to town. Because once I got the parrying system down, Garrett, like it was so easy to like, time the parries with their attacks and then just go on the counter attack with some of those like aggressive enemies.
That's pretty dope. Yeah, I haven't tried so much with the sword and shield yet, and so I guess I haven't done too much parrying. I've been doing a lot of dodging.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of a struggle with one of the bounties that I was going after. I died a couple times. I'm like, oh darn, what am I doing wrong? It's mainly the first person mode because there would be a random enemy on like behind me that would slash me. I'm like, wait, where did this guy come from? Like
that happened to me a lot too.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if I want to change the third person mode, if I do some sort of mage range attack type of deal. The pistols are interesting, Ryan. So basically you shoot a pistol, but you still have to reload, right? So like the animation's like, shoot, okay, I got to reload, like type of deal. Like, that's,
you basically put the pistol away and you hear the reloading sounds off screen and then you just pull the pistol back up.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
It took a few battles to kind of get used to the pace of it, but I found that I really enjoyed the dual pistol style. You also get like a heavier gun, that blunderbuss, which is kind of like a shotgun that you can kind of use if you wanted to kind of go that route as well. Like if you wanted to go all guns, similar to bows as well, because there's multiple types of bows as well.
Yeah, I've tried the long range gun. I forgot what it was called.
Yeah, the blunderbuss.
The blunderbuss, yeah. And I use that to face against the bear, the first major kind of story boss or whatever with this Dream Scourge or whatever. Yeah, I just used a long range weapon gun and dodged everywhere to get that one down. So
nice.
I the feeling of the combat here is probably one of the better ones of a first person RPG, Western person RPG for sure.
Yeah.
So.
But also, I love too that they give you so many different options for combat, and you've
flexible.
only got so much space in your inventory, so you can only carry around so many different types of weapons. But I like the fact that that regardless of what type of player you are, you're probably going to find like a weapon or a weapon style that you really enjoy. And I like how like the skills themselves, like you don't get a ton of skills in this game to kind of build out your character, but I like that the skills that are there just feel like they make a difference.
Yeah. I still, I'm like very early game, so I haven't really built out certain skills. I'm curious, which route did you go?
I went kind of full down the ranger path. Since I was, specializing in guns and then short swords, because basically the ranger path, it gives you a bunch of abilities that complement guns, bows, and short weapons. So daggers or one-handed swords or one-handed axes. And so I kind of liked all the skills that kind of went along with that. I dabbled in some magic skills, like I would use like a grimoire and then kind of like grab like a spell or two. Like I would have Blizzard just always available to me without a grimoire. As an example, like just so I have like an area of effect attack, or especially because I wasn't really using a ton of magic. But also like down the ranger tree, you eventually get like a summon skill because you can summon a bear to come fight for you.
That's dope.
Which is pretty cool. And he's like a spirit bearer, and he taunts all the enemies and stuff like that. So then that way I can kind of focus on shooting them from range with my pistols while the bear kind of draws them to him. So again, like I loved the way the combat worked, but like some of the warrior skills look pretty cool if you wanted to go down that range. And then the magic skills like are mostly, there are a couple unique magic skills that are in the magic tree, but for the most part, it's you just learning the spells from the grimoires.
Yeah, that's true.
So you just have a really big wheel of abilities at your disposal.
Which can lead you to use different weapons if you need to, not the grimoire at all. So Yeah.
And then you also have another set of abilities as well called godlike abilities, which I won't go too much into because there are story spoilers associated with them. But also you can just choose not to have them if you don't want them either. So
That's true.
there's that too. But yeah, like the combat for this game is really good. Let's talk about actually one last thing I want to mention about the combat, because I know this came up a lot while people were playing it, and this probably hasn't happened to you, Garrett, since you haven't left the first area. But I know a lot of people in our community, especially, were and myself included, actually, were struggling when they got to the second area of the game, because there's a bit of a difficulty spike that happens when that happens. But I just want to give people a little tip, and I'm going to give you this tip, Garrett, so you don't make the same mistake that I did. Is that there's no level scaling in this game. So the enemies aren't really scaled to your level or anything like that, which kind of created that thing. But I don't know if you've noticed that when looking at the nameplates of the enemies, but it doesn't have the enemy's level listed there, but instead has a color associated with it.
Yeah.
So basically the enemies themselves are weak against certain armor rarities. So, for example, if you're using the common rarity stuff, which you get at the beginning of the game, and you're up against an enemy that has a blue tag on their name, then they're strong against anything below the fine quality tag.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So like sometimes if you're too far below, let's say, because a lot of people will go to the second area and maybe they've maybe upgraded their weapons at the camp, but they haven't upgraded it past common quality. So you'll go into and some of the enemies are purple, and like for the second tier of equipment rarity, and you'll shoot them with a pistol, like a really souped up common pistol, and it will take down up 1% of their health.
Oh my goodness.
So you'll be like, what the heck is going on here? What am I doing wrong? Because likewise, if you are only wearing common armor and you're up against those same enemies, they'll
destroy you.
Triple damage to you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay.
Even on the easiest difficulty. So the game wants you to be turning over your equipment to kind of get it to like the next quality bracket. Essentially.
Got it.
So that's my tip for anyone, like making sure that when you go to the second area for the first time, that you have at least fine equipment equipped before you go into that area.
Well, that's a good tip. So thanks for that, Ryan. I will make sure to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, because otherwise, like I was sitting there doing this battle, Garrett, for 2 hours trying to get past it because I had done like all the side quests going into that area, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong. Why the enemies were just so much more powerful than me, and then I did some research, like, oh, that's why, because I'm still using common level equipment, despite the fact that I raised my level. I didn't actually swap out the weapons themselves.
I don't think I've ever heard of that before. Yeah. That type of mechanic of matching the armor quality and weapon quality versus the monster.
It was
quality,
new to me.
I guess.
Like I've never seen something like that in an RPG before.
Yeah. So okay, well, it's good to know. So thanks for that. Yeah, and maybe we can get into, I guess, not the story, but like kind of the interactivity of the game. Yeah. I like what I like about it is very explorative driven, right? So you like look at the map and you kind of search around, and it's like you can just basically wander anywhere you want within the area.
In fact, it like really rewards you for exploration, because there's a ton of crap to find in this game, Garrett. There's
a lot
little like caves and crevices everywhere, and like places to investigate all over the map in this game. Like, even though it's not like a big open world game, I actually think there's more detail in something. There's just as much, detail and places to find in this game as there is in Skyrim, but it's like a more condensed version of it with, I think, actually more things to find in like smaller areas.
Yeah. It's a pretty dense interactivity environment. I would agree that it's more dense than Skyrim for sure. There's so many different, as Ryan mentioned, crevices and caves and over like just secret areas in general with the map. So that's what I really like about it. It's just like you just do your side quests and then you just go out in the world. It's like I wonder what's over there, and then you can kind of just explore, and then your map gets revealed based off of field of vision and where you've explored, which is pretty dope as well.
There's even secret dungeons as well that you can find in the open world, Garret, and they actually contain the better weapons as well. Like they contain like the unique weapons that have like special properties that deal like electric damage or fire damage or have like really cool abilities attached to them.
Nice. So yeah, so it rewards the player basically to be explorative in this game. So that's, I mean, I'll be spending a lot of time doing that. That's what I love about these games, is this, and that's why I think I really like Witcher and Skyrim a lot. It's the explorative part of those games. So other than that, the loot's fine. It's just a very common loot mechanic. You know, there's a lot of different things you can get. There's a lot of upgrades and crafting you can do as well.
Yeah, I do love as well that you can, like, even though you only have so much inventory space, you can simply go into your inventory and like just press the X button and it'll just go straight to your, straight to your stash and your base, which you can have unlimited amounts of stuff to it. So I like that they don't hamper you too much where you feel like, I'm overburdened and I need to like find a way to run to a vendor to get rid of stuff or run back to the camp, because you can't fast travel when you're over encumbered.
Yeah, so it streamlines that pretty well. Let's I think get into just like the writing itself and the companions. So I've only gotten the first two companions. I just got the second one. And my impression on the writing's fine, like from a technical standpoint. I think it's just the level of interactivity, I guess, with these companions. It doesn't seem that that interactive that much with the story or with the side quests. They seem to have their own personality, of course, and motivations, but it doesn't have the same weight as, I would say, a Baldur's Gate 3 or even Outer Worlds, to be honest with you.
Right.
It just seems like it was a tacked-on type of mechanic.
Yeah, and you can get to know them a little bit more because each of them has their own like side quests available to them. But you're right. Like I fully agree with you where I just didn't really feel any connection to my, companions at all. At the same time, you can't really, like get rid of them or anything like that. And you can have two in your party at a time. So even though you only have two right now, you can eventually swap them out for other characters that you'll earn along the way later in the game. So I like that aspect where I like that you kind of have that, but I also, almost wish that I could go no party members like I could in Outer Worlds and have rewards based on that as well. So I wish there was more like flexibility there in customizing your party a little bit, especially because again, I didn't really feel too connected to them, and especially because like in the main story, in the main dialogue, they're not really chirping in or interacting with the dialogue that much anyways.
It's a very weird level of interactivity where you are with your companions and you're doing side quests or doing the main story or whatever, and you would be, going back and forth with this one character, dialogue options or whatever, and then a random character says something. It's like, oh, I'm gonna say this something, and then that's it.
Yep.
It's
just to remind you that they're there, Garret.
It's literally a reminder that they're there. That's pretty much it. There's little to no, again, weight with these characters so much. I often heard that, you really can't, like, you can be a jerk to them and you can be awful to them, but it doesn't matter, really.
I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, as someone who's finished the game, that's the way it is in the early game.
Oh.
There are certain things you can do that'll affect things, and I'm going to just leave it at that.
Okay, sounds good. All right, good to know.
Because likewise, when you're transitioning to new areas, Garret, you'll actually one of the things that happens is like your party will sit down and talk about all the things that happened in the previous region as part of the story, and then you'll kind of get like the feedback loop about how like the other party members are feeling. But then also you'll sit around and talk about what's next and things like that. So they do get involved more in like those conversations. But like you're right, in the early game, or just a lot of the dialogue that happens throughout the story, like your party members are mostly just there and will chime in every once in a while. But you're the one that's very much driving the story in a lot of ways.
Yeah, pretty much. And I felt like the second side character, the dwarf, I don't know, thief.
He's
hunter.
like a ranger rogue kind of class.
Yeah, I feel like he was like introducing him as a companion. I'm like, oh, it took me off guard. I'm like, oh, you just really just decide to join us.
I was like, wait, you're coming with us? That was kind of how I felt about it too, because it was like, because your first party member was like, oh, let's go talk to this guy. He'll instruct us on where we need to go, and then you go and talk to him. He's like, oh, I guess I'm coming with you.
And it's like, I guess so. Sure, okay. Anyways, yeah. So I think the companion stuff is a little tacked on. Other than that, the writing's fine so far. Yeah.
It's like, honestly, I feel like as much as I love Obsidian's writing in their games, this one just on the writing of this game just felt okay to me. Like it was definitely the story was not the reason I was playing through this game.
That's correct. Yes. It doesn't. It sounds like it serves a purpose to tell a story.
Yeah.
Not too much far from that. I feel like it's just very segmented. It's like, okay, you're going through this part of the story, and it's like kind of self-contained. Now you're going to this next part of the story. It's kind of self-contained. That's what it felt like. I kind of just like building block of storylines so far. So, anyways, yeah. I is there anything else you want to talk about Avowed specifically?
So obviously, there's some stuff I want to talk about with you after you kind of finish it and you get much farther into the game. Because maybe we'll do like a
spoiler cast
topic
of
or something.
some kind. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's some really interesting stuff that happens later on. But I think we're good right here. I personally, though, I have to ask Garrett, are you enjoying yourself? Are you having fun?
I'm at least having fun with the gameplay itself. I think I was really overhyped originally for this game just because of its sheer similarities with Skyrim and its inspirations from Skyrim.
Yeah.
But now I think kind of the first wave of like kind of impressions of this game really kind of lowered my or not lowered but shaped my expectations a little more,
which we talked about on last week's show.
So I am whelmed.
You're whelmed.
I think I'm satisfied with what I'm playing.
Yeah.
I like what I'm playing. I don't find it to be super unique. I don't find it to be like if I say, oh, I want the best open world RPG, I don't think this will be in that tier.
Sure. But I will throw a caveat
enjoyable
to that though. If you love exploring in role-playing games, this is your game. This is going to be your jam. You're going to love this game if you're someone out there listening, because there's like a ton of stuff to find in this world, and you could just pour over exploring the map for hours upon hours upon hours and still probably not find everything to find.
Yeah, that's my kind of jam. So I can't wait to get into that part of the game. For sure.
Especially like the later areas too, Garrett. Like there's so much. Like the first area, there's a lot to find, but like I would say the second and third areas in particular, there's like so many nooks and crannies and things to find in those areas. So
I like reading a lot too. So every time I see a book, I'm like, okay, let me just read through the lore and just kind of get myself into this type of story. So hopefully I'll get more acquainted with the lore. So it really hits you if you have not played Pillars of Eternity. It like in the beginning of this game, they throw out so many terms and differences and factions and cities and the lost. Like I was basically like disoriented probably the first couple hours of this game. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like genuinely, I don't know what's happening. But
at least there's like you can press the X button and it'll like give you like all the terms and stuff that are happening. So like if they'll reference a certain country or a faction or something, it'll then give you the details on what they're actually talking about. But you're right. It's like, it's a lot to take in the first little bit, especially if you've not played those games. Cause there's a ton of references for Pillars fans, but like I haven't played those games.
Apparently,
Deadfire.
Deadfire was like super important.
Yeah, they reference it a lot.
like a lot.
Yeah.
I wish they. Well, I understand why they didn't really push for that. I wish they would say, "Hey, it's a lot more rewarding if you played the Pillars of Eternity games." But I understand not emphasizing that too.
Yeah.
At the same time, they want new players, of course. Yeah. So.
Yeah, because I mean, I still enjoyed the game without it, but you're right. It was so much more hard. It's so much harder for me to get into the story without that frame of knowledge.
Yeah, so for anyone who wants to get into the story from the beginning, who wants to start this game, I would just like look up YouTube videos of like, okay, what's a good recap, good overall synopsis or summary of what happened in Pillars of Eternity and Deadfire. It kind of gives you a good kind of primer before getting into this game. So, because I think once I learned more and more about what's going on, it's much more interesting. But it took a little bit for sure.
Yeah, and maybe that's just why you and I are not super into the stories. Like, neither of us are Pillars of Eternity fans, and this game feels like it was made for those people. Like the story was made for Pillars of Eternity fans.
Yeah. The one thing I wish they leaned on a little more, and this is just kind of a personal thing. I don't think it was in their field of vision. Was really the malleability of growing your character, in a sense of in Skyrim, you use certain skills and you level up those skills. It's definitely not like that in this game. It's more of like very typical, like open world RPG, where it's like, okay, you get a certain action point and you could just put it wherever you want. And I just wish for this type of game, explorative game, it's like, okay, let me invest where I want to get better at and be more equipped to. But I think that's just a personal kind of opinion. I don't think there was a wrong answer to it, but that's just how I felt playing in the beginning of this game. So.
And what's interesting about the skill tree in this game too, Garrett, is like there are certain skills that are locked behind you getting the first skill first and then getting them around. But at any point in the time, you're only really gated by your character's level as far as where you can put your points. Like I could have no points in the warrior tree, but invest in the level 20 warrior abilities just for being at level 20 if I have extra points, as an example. So I do like that flexibility is there, where it's like you can really customize your character to be like, to just be whatever you want it to be. You don't have to throw all your points in the ranger style or the mage style or the warrior style. You can kind of like spread them however you want, and the game is very flexible when it comes to that. Obviously there are a couple skills like the grimoire mastery skills, as an example, like you have to get them all kind of in order, but the rest of them, like, you can kind of just get whatever you want for your character.
Yeah, that's basically it. And then also there was a lot of discussion about the game's development, how it went through a couple reboots. It took a little bit of time to get through this game. I heard mentionings this was originally going to be multiplayer focused.
Yep.
And then they somehow salvaged it out. Going through and playing through this game, Ryan, did you see the skeletons?
I could, I mean, that was, I mean, first of all, there's lots of skeletons in this game, but also, like I could definitely see that. I think actually what we talked about before about the equipment rarity making a difference is more of the type of thing you see in an MMO.
Oh, for sure.
Or something like Destiny. So like, I think that is definitely what some of the bones of that live service thing. But even just the way you interact with the story too, like it almost feels like the campaign for, an MMO or a live service game.
It definitely felt like a single player MMO. That's how I feel like more and more as I play this game. It's like you're playing a character that has a kind of a, as you say, build out of like kind of a fixed format, one action point, and then you can put it to wherever you want. And then this campaign, it's there, but you really just want to explore a lot more and,
Yep.
and see the different areas. And then I can imagine they were really trying to focus on mini dungeons. So I'm sure some of the caves and
That's why there are those
stuff like
secret
that.
dungeons out there. I think,
Yeah.
for sure, because those were probably
Definitely with
like
the
much
mini
larger,
dungeon.
like multiplayer dungeons and stuff like that.
Very interesting to see the kind of the skeletons of a multiplayer game in this one. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
And there's lots of skeletons in this game. Or other like there are like really like 10 different creature types throughout the entire game. So there's a lot thing that we talked about last week when talking about kind of the review roundup is like there's you see a lot of the same enemies over and over again or reskins of them. Which is again another kind of like live servicey kind of thing. Like in a live service game, like Diablo as an example, you're kind of seeing like the same 10 enemy types all the time, but like reskinned essentially. That's kind of how I felt about fighting the enemies in this game.
yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed it. Like I really enjoyed my experience going all the way through. Over on Backlogged, because I did my little kind of review for Avowed over on Backlogged. I rated it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good game. Not amazing. Not the best RPG in the world, but it was
Is
a
it
lot of fun.
considered a great game?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Would be.
Great game.
Yeah. I mean, the combat, I think, really, like we talked about, kind of
It really shines.
Like,
Yeah.
It really it shines. And it was just honestly so fun to play. Like, now I kind of want to go back and find all the stuff I didn't have a chance to find. So, because I think if you mainline this game, Garrett, you could probably finish it in about 16 hours. But I went and did a bunch of exploring, did a ton of side quests, like all the bounty board stuff. Like, I did a lot in this game.
I do want to say from a technical standpoint, I wish I played a little later. It looks a little unstable to me.
Oh yeah.
I was going through both quality and performance. It's like quality is rough. It tanks the frames a lot. It's not a stable 30. If it was a stable 30, I would be a little bit more, forgiving and going through the game. But man, there's hard in certain lights. It really tanks the frames. I'm just like, wow. Okay. So.
Well, you should wait, Garrett. Wait till you get to the later areas because it really took a hit from me. And I hope that they kind of smooth some of that out. Like, especially, believe it or not, in cutscenes where like some of the cutscenes, like with the character dialogue, were happening like at like 20 to 15 frames
That's
a
crazy.
second when I was playing in performance mode.
That's rough.
And then when I switched to quality mode, it was more of the same. Like it was this weird, it almost like a switch happened where I got to a certain point in the game, and then all of a sudden, all the cutscenes, like anytime you went to talk to anyone, would suddenly like go from 60 to 20, like that. Like it was a really sharp jolt.
Yeah, there's a lot of unstable frames in both performance and quality, and then it just makes me like, should I wait till build my PC just to have a smooth experience? But
so we're both playing on Series X then?
Yeah, I'm playing on Series X. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I looked at it, I'm like, man, this is one of those games where I wish I could play on my PlayStation 5 Pro because it probably would smooth a lot of this stuff.
It'd probably be
out,
better.
Yeah,
for sure. But that's it.
Cool. But before we go, Garrett, we got a quick question from Tim Paullin who says, "Hey, Cave Dwellers, hope you are doing well. Should I shelve Mass Effect to play Avowed? I'm having serious FOMO with all the Carpool Gaming crew playing the game. Garrett, how far are you in Mass Effect, and where are you playing it? Have a great weekend, gents." So should Tim Paullin stop playing Mass Effect to play Avowed? I personally, Garrett, think Tim Paullin should just finish Mass Effect first before playing Avowed. I think you can wait.
Yeah, I agree. I think, well, it really just depends. Like with me, with Avowed, I just have it on Game Pass. So I just want to really go through it. And I've been anticipating this game for a very long time.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of just put a pause on Mass Effect, at least for now. I'm sure I'll get back into it in like a few weeks or something and just be fine. I find Mass Effect not too, it doesn't seem like a game that takes a lot to get back into. At least the first Mass Effect, it seemed pretty straightforward to me. So, yeah, Tim, I would say keep on the Mass Effect train.
Yeah. Especially if
and-
you're enjoying it, because that's the thing. Tim
Mm-hmm.
doesn't indicate he's not enjoying Mass Effect or anything like that. Like it sounds like he's enjoying it. Like the reason he wanted to stop playing was the FOMO. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it's probably okay. Like you don't need to.
This FOMO will be gone. You'll
Yes.
not hear Avowed for a good while after this. Probably after these next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll be off to the next game, or not us, but like.
Well, Monster Hunter's coming out this week,
gosh.
and there's other games coming out too that people are excited about. Like March has a lot of games. I know people are excited for this Weekend in Collection.
Xenoblade Chronicles is just
Xenoblade, Assassin's
like around the
Creed,
corner. Yeah,
Atelier Yumiya. Like there's a lot of stuff that's coming out next month. So,
looking good. All of them looking good. But yeah, Tim, I wouldn't worry too much about Avowed. It'll be there. And it'll actually be better, probably be better performance later on with updates.
That's
So
the thing. Like,
just-
especially if
just
you're
wait
playing
it
on
out.
console, I would definitely wait for them to iron some of the console stuff out.
It's pretty rough performance.
I can't even imagine what Series
Series
looks
S.
like.
Oh my gosh, it probably looks like Play-Doh in the performance mode.
Yeah.
It's even pretty rough on Series X. Like I can obviously tell the upscaling and how rough it is in the lighting. It's just like, oh my gosh, that looks so blurry.
But if I'm playing my dual pistol style, Garrett, like I better be playing it on performance mode, or I'm just not going to be able to
you're
aim
done, yeah.
properly. Yeah. Because after all, like when I play with the dual pistols, Garrett, it feels like I'm playing some Wild West first-person shooter at times. So I have to. So having the extra performance mode, I think, definitly helps for that type of play style. I think.
And then he asks how far I am in Mass Effect 1. So I'm still like kind of in the more beginning part. It seems like I've done 2 of the 3 major missions
Right.
from the council.
Okay.
And
Where did you go to Ilias or Noveria for your second planet? Like the ice planet or the...
Not the ice planet, the other one.
Okay.
Noveria, I guess. That's the one with the Thorian.
Noveria is the ice planet.
Oh no. So the other one. The one that has the Thorian in
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Yeah.
That one, I did a pretty good job.
Okay.
I did pretty good. Yeah,
Nice.
not bad. Yeah.
Yeah, because actually, Garrett, you kind of you're pretty close actually to the halfway point in that game.
Okay, cool. Because I did get another major mission from the council.
Yeah.
So I have 2 major missions. I'm learning more about the villain, which is I think the villain's super cool in this game.
You've heard me talk about it before. Like Saren is like so interesting.
Saren is interesting. Like what you learn from that part, the Thorian part. I'm just like, oh, okay, cool.
Dude, you don't even know yet. I can't wait for you to get to like get through like these last 2 missions that you have right now and talk about it then. Like, dude, I can't wait. It's gonna be so cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and I'm playing on Xbox. I'm playing on Series X, and runs great.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on Game Pass, and yeah, I mean they are definitely older games. So like the Legendary Edition, they did a great job cleaning up Mass Effect 1 in particular because it was that's a 2007.
7. Yeah. And I guess like the major thing was like the UI is refreshed quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good.
Also, the Thorian fight on the older version is kind of annoying to do. It's still
okay.
not amazing on this version, but it's still like they cleaned it up a lot more on this version.
Yeah, it was fine.
Because you're just fighting a bunch of dudes, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I just fighting, but I pulled out a shotgun and just went ham on them.
Yeah.
Because they go super close on you. So.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot, Garrett. Are you using? Do you have powers? Are you an adept or an engineer, or are you playing as the soldier?
I'm playing as a soldier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, Garrett, that's going to do it for this episode of the RPG Cave. But before we go, we got to say thank you to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming, starting with our ultimate producers, Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the PlayStation Drive. You can find all of his music over at his Linktree, linktr.ee/pme.gib. Cwagmire, who reminds you that the best babes are in fact Xenobabes, and TechMike, who says whether you're Kevesi or Agnian, you're a Xenobabe at heart. Links to all of our ultimate producers can always be found in the description of our podcast, so make sure to support them as they support us, and they're pretty awesome. Our platinum producers, Smokin Joe, the Captain, and Tim Paullin, and our gold members, Adam K, Anna, Awesome Dave 1337, Brad Moore, Brian Reese, Cecily Carrozza, Dan and Luma, Dannohh, MLO Kelly, John 32, Ligerwoods 330, Mr. Giggles, OldMrFrump, Patrice Mallette, Peje, Riley King, and Stephen Keller. Huge thank you once again to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. If you want to hop in the car with us, head over there and choose the tier that's right for you. And now, Garrett Plugs go.
You can follow me on Blue Sky at Blind Explosion and also on Backlogged. I need to put Avowed in my playing list. It's not in there yet, so I'll put that in there. Relatively short list right now. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And I read every single message in the RPG Cave. Don't think I don't. I do.
Nothing escapes Garrett's gaze.
Nothing. The gaze is there, and someone's talking about Daybreak 2, and then Kevin Ainsworth is like, I played 70 RPGs right now, you know.
Like, because he's playing that and Avowed at the same time.
Yeah, he's going ham. He's double fisting and double drinking on the RPGs.
That is not a term I ever expected to hear on the RPG Cave. But as for me, you can always find me also in the Discord at Ryan Turford. You can also find me on Backlogged at Ryan Turford over there, where I've been posting all the games I've been playing, like Avowed, like Skyward Sword, which I'm playing now. But
have fun.
For Garrett Bland, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been the RPG Cave level 173, and we're out.
Bye-bye.